Hi guys, welcome to another video. I'm Charlie from Vamos Gaming Systems, and we're gonna do an update for the cheapest like AMD CPUs in Singapore for May of 2025. The last we did this was in March. So in April I didn't do an update. So here's the update. So first let's go through the budget AM4 CPUs, the 5600. If you're looking for a 5600, the most affordable one, you can get it from AliExpress, roughly around 129 SGD. Take note that these prices, especially from the online platforms, it may change due to fluctuations in exchange rate. Otherwise, actually, you can always 5600 and 5600X, these kind of old CPUs, you can always find deals from Carousell because there are people selling used 5600, 5600X, so you can get some cheap deals there. But obviously on Carousell, the supply is very limited. There's only one or two selling at the price from individual sellers. So once they run out, then you won't get any more. Next up, we're talking about the 5600X. 5600X and 5600 non-X and X are selling for roughly the same price, about 128 to 129 SGD. And obviously you can get deals from Carousell as well. Performance wise, they are roughly the same. The X is just unlocked. You can get a little bit more overclocking, but at that tier, overclocking doesn't do much. 5700, I didn't do much research because it's not a really popular CPU. Same for the 5700X. I would say you can probably get some deals from AliExpress or from Carousell. Then moving on, this is the one that most people are interested in, the 5700X 3D. The 700X3D used to be really cheap from places like AliExpress. They I believe last year, so about half a year to 1 year ago, there was a flood of 5700X3Ds flooding the Chinese market, and they were at a really good deal. I got mine for about 220 Sing dollars SGD, but now the supply has really dried up. It's become close to its MSRP, which is about 355 Singapore dollars converted from USD to SGD plus GST. So the cheapest I can find is probably on Lazada, selling for about 389. So you are most probably getting one at about 400 SGD. So if you are on an existing AM4 platform, like let's say you are on a 3600 for example, you might want to consider the 5700X3D, but I would say it is a little bit pricey because for about 400 SGD, right, you can actually go full on AM5. I mean, granted, it can cost a little bit much because you have to buy a budget AM5 CPU, for example, the 7500F, which is about 200 SGD. Then you will have to get a motherboard, which is also another 200 SGD. So that is the CPU and motherboard alone already cost 400. And let's say 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, maybe 6000 megahertz. The cheapest I can find is probably about 120, about 150. So that means a full-on jump. So it's like, do you want to spend 400 SGD to get a 5700X3D and then stay on the AM4 platform, or you can spend about 550 SGD. That means about 150 SGD more, or maybe 200 SGD more, and you can get budget AM5 CPU. You can get the motherboard as well as the RAM, and full on jump to the AM5 platform. So I would say actually jumping to the AM5 platform will probably make more sense as long as you can afford that extra like 200 to 150 SGD, because once you're on the AM5 platform, there is upgrade path. So you can always swap out the 7500F, sell it off next time, and then buy a 7800X3D for more FPS. You can go the 9800X3D once maybe the next generation, maybe the let's say the 1100 Ryzen CPUs have launched. So the 11800X3D has launched, and then the 9800X3D will have been really cheap, and then maybe you can buy that used or buy it brand new for cheap, and then pop it into on your AM5 motherboard and get a very big boost from your like 7500F jumping to the 9800X3D, right? So there is an upgrade path there. So I would say the 5700X3D is no longer worth it. Same for the 5800X3D. It is also has dried up in supply. Even on carousell, I'm not finding any sellers. So on AliExpress as well as Lazada, they're selling it for as much as 550 SGD, which is totally not worth it to get a 5800X3D. No matter what AM4 CPU you're on, if you're spending 550 SGD just to get a CPU upgrade, might as well jump onto AM5 platform, because a 7500F, 7600, 7600X is actually performing about the same gaming wise with the 5000X3D, and is performing better in terms of productivity. And once you're on the AM5 platform, you have an upgrade path. Then you can go on to your 7000X3D, 900X3D, or the 11800X3D, which is the next gen of the Ryzen CPUs, right? Because you're probably going to skip the 10,000 series based on the numbering. So with 7, jump to 9, jump to 11. Okay, so 50RX3D, not worth it. So I've also skipped covering the other 5000 series CPUs like the 5900X, 5950X, because it's just not viable to get those CPUs anymore. If you want to upgrade, might as well jump on the AM5 platform, because AM5 is really cheap. So let's move on to AM5. AM5, the most lowest tier of entry into AM5 is the 7400F, which is basically a 7500F but downclocked. So it's a downclocked 7500F, and is a little bit cheaper because there's no like indium solder between the IHS as well as the CPU die, so the temperatures are a little bit warmer. But if you do have a deleting tool, you can actually delete it and replace it with liquid metal, and you will probably perform even better than the 7500F. But anyway, I mean, the deleting tool is expensive. Nobody wants to delete. Very few people want to delete. Okay, but anyway, yep. So moving on, 7400F, the cheapest you can get it is 187 SGD from AliExpress. That is about its MSRP, slightly above its MSRP by 13%. Then moving on, 7500F, you can get it at 202 SGD, but you can actually find deals on carousell. There are carousell sellers selling at about 140, some will sell at 150, 160 to 200. So yeah, I would suggest that if you want it, get it locally. You can actually get the 7500F from carousell. Actually 7400F, surprisingly, there's nobody selling it on carousell and on Lazada. The only Lazada seller for the 7400F is actually me. So I've actually bought some chips, just 2 to 3 from AliExpress, and list them on Lazada to sell at 205 HD. But if you feel like it's a bit too expensive, maybe you can post in the comments and I can try and lower the price perhaps. But basically I'm buying it at this price, which is about 100. I bought it at about 195 HD, and then I have to make a small amount of profit, right? So that's why I'm listing it at that price. Okay, moving on. 7600 non-X. The cheapest I can find it is actually from techyard.com, which is backed by Aftershock. Yeah, so it's backed by Aftershock, so you have local warranty, which is pretty good. Otherwise, you can get it from Bisgram Asia. That is about 268 HD, but since you already have local warranty, I would say get it from the techyard.com. 7600X is the cheapest I can find is actually from carousell at 200 HD. Otherwise, Techyard, AliExpress, and AliExpress selling at 274. Amazon.com used to have deals for it, but I think they have actually run out. So they have run out of 7600Xs on Amazon. So that's why I couldn't find any listed. So anyway, get the non-X. It is about performing the same as the X, just that it doesn't have PBO by default, but you can actually enforce PBO. So yeah, you can still overclock it. So it's about the same, slightly less performance. Moving on, the best deal, the best mid-range to low-end CPU. So actually the 7700, right, is actually considered a mid-range AM5 Ryzen CPU for the 7000 series, but somehow or another it has a huge supply in China. Actually, they're producing a bulk loads of it. So in AliExpress, it's actually really cheap. You can get them for about 250 SGD. I found one that's listed for about 251. Maybe by the time you see it, it might be a little bit higher, but anyway, it's below 300 SGD, which is a really good deal because the MSRP for the 7700 is actually 464 SGD. So at this price, it is actually about, let me check. Yeah, so it's only about 53%. So it's about half price of its MSRP. So it's a really good deal. I believe Tech Yes City has talked about 7700 as well. It's one of his favorite CPUs to buy and build gaming systems with. It's really popular because it is an 8-core CPU. It performs the same as the 70. It performs superior to like the 7500F and the 7600, maybe similar to 7600X because this is the non-X version, so it clocks a little bit less than the X version, but still with 8 core, it is really good balance between gaming as well as workload. And it is pretty future-proof as well because if your game requires more cores or you have a little bit of production workload, maybe you do some video editing like me, do some content creation, some streaming, the 8 cores are definitely going to be better than the 6 cores, right? So 7700 non-X is actually the best deal on AliExpress now. If you are upgrading to AM5, I would suggest you get the 7700 non-X while stocks last, because just like the 5700 X3D as well as the, just like the 5700 X3D, the supply of chips on China is not infinite. So once they run out of all the production chips, and once they dry out, the prices are gonna go up as well because supply is gonna go down. So while the supply is high and the prices are low, should get them while they last. Moving on, 7700X is really there's no good prices. Some people on carousell are selling at 335, but like I mentioned, might as well go AliExpress and get the 7700 non-X at about 250 SGD. Right, you can save a lot of money for very little decrease in performance. Moving on, the second best, or I would say the third best gaming chip, the 7800 X3D. The second best should be the 9800 X3D, and the best should be the 9950 X3D. So the third best gaming chip, 7800 X3D, it has dropped in price by a lot. You can get them from AliExpress at 472. But I don't know how reliable the listing on AliExpress is. So, and also you don't get local warranty while I'm buying from AliExpress. So I would suggest the next best, if you want to get local warranty, will be to get it from the techyard.com. But there are also carousel sellers selling it at around 500 SGD on carousel. So if you're okay with no warranty anyway, might as well get it from carousel. Get it locally so you can get it faster rather than waiting for the delivery from AliExpress. But if the supply runs out on carousel, you can get it from the techyard.com at 520 SGD. Comes with warranty, so it's really good. Otherwise, you can get it from Lazada. Some of the cheapest sellers on Lazada are selling it for around 540 SGD. So also a pretty close price to the techyard.com. Moving on from the 7800 X3D. So if you're more on looking at workstation performance, you want to do maybe video editing or AI workloads, video rendering, 3D rendering, all that. So you're looking at the 7900X. That is the 12-core chips. So the 12-core. Am I right? Yeah, 12 core. So 12-core, 24-thread chips. 7900 non-X. Cheapest I can find it is from Newegg. So Newegg has a decent deal. How much is this against the MSRP? Let me see. Amazon, if I put the Newegg price. Yes, so it's 87% of its MSRP, which is about 610 SGD. Then also moving on to the 7900X, it is about also 553 from Newegg.com. You can also get it from, actually Amazon is cheaper actually. Yeah, why don't we get it from Amazon, right? If you are gonna get it from Newegg, Amazon is cheaper. So how much is this? Yeah, so it's actually only at 67% of its MSRP, which is a 775 SGD. So 524 for the 7900X. It is not too bad. 7900X 3D, I don't see a lot of supply for it because it is a fundamentally flawed chip. The 7000 series X3D, other than the 7800 X3D, that means the dual CCD ones are fundamentally flawed, whereby the scheduler doesn't work so well. So they haven't gotten the firmware and everything sorted out in the first generation of the X3D, especially with the dual CCDs. So there are many instances whereby you are running games, but it doesn't run on the correct CCD, or yeah, things like that. And then you have to do a fresh Windows 11 install. You need the Xbox game bar. It is very problematic. So the 7900X3D is also yeah, it's fundamentally flawed. So if you're looking for production work, just get the 7900X or the 7900 non-X. 7900X3D is really not that suitable for gaming because it is slower than the 7800X3D anyway, because of its the 3D cache is on the 6-core chip. So moving on, pure workstation performance, 7900X chip, there is the 16-core 32-thread 7900X. You can get really good deals from buying used from Carousell, because there are a lot of workstation users that have upgraded to the 9950X or the 9950X3D, so they have upgraded, so they have a leftover 7950X that they're selling for relatively cheap for 500 SGD. If you're not buying from used from Carousell, you can't find a deal, or maybe they are sold out, I would say the second best would be get it from Newegg. So if we get the Newegg price, right there is 73% of its MSRP, which is close to 1,000 SGD. So obviously the price has dropped, which is a good thing because the 9000 Ryzen series are out. Okay, moving on. 7950X3D supply has run out. So the only one I can find is from Newegg.com, and I wasn't really interested to hunt any further. I'm sure on Carousell there are some people trying to sell theirs because, yeah, they probably get a 9950X3D, and yeah, but I mentioned it's 7950X3D is a flawed chip, so I really don't recommend people getting it brand new. If you get it really cheap, maybe on Carousell or something, yeah, go ahead, but it's a very problematic chip. So moving on, 9000 series Ryzen chips, 9600X, which is performing similarly to the 7600X, but a little bit more expensive. So the best price I can find it is about 279 SGD. But if you look at the 9600X at this price, 279 SGD, how about our 7700 non-X? 251 SGD from AliExpress. So even though the 9600X is somewhat affordable on AliExpress, the 7700 non-X has more cores. And yeah, it performs better in a workstation and is cheaper. So I would say just get the 7700 non-X. But if you are somehow, I don't know, you really want the X, yeah, you can get it. I don't know what's the MSRP. I didn't list it down. Yeah, then moving on. Anyway, 7900 non-X. No really good deals. Carousell, some people selling at 400. Not a good deal for it. I would say again, if you're considering 9700X, go and get the 7700 non-X from AliExpress. Moving on, second best gaming chip, 9800X3D. So this is in high demand, and actually there are some pretty good deals on Carousell. On Carousell, some people are selling it at 680 SGD. AliExpress, some people are selling it at 647. But I'm not so sure whether to trust those listings on AliExpress, because the 9800X, there are many reports of the 9800X3D dying, especially on the ASRock boards. And TechSCity had a pretty good video. And what he suspected was because the ASRock board had a certain setting that had the SoC voltage a little bit like variable SoC voltage on the ASRock boards, and he suspects that if you change the setting to fixed SoC voltage, the 9800X3D should stop dying, but it is a big should. So nobody else has stepped forward or created big videos to confirm what TechSCity has found out. So yeah, so it's pretty speculative. So what I would say is that it is a pretty expensive chip, 9800X3D. If you are buying it, make sure you get warranty. So if you're looking for local warranty for the 9800X3D in case it gets burned out, I would suggest you get it from detectyard.com. Let's say if I were to put this price in, so detectyard.com is selling it at 730 SGD, and since they're backed by Aftershock, they will probably honor local warranty. So I would say even though the AliExpress one is about 100 SGD cheaper, eh, I would lean towards buying it from the techyard.com so that you get local warranty, because yeah, you're already spending, because once you're spending more than 500 SGD, it is a little bit sus to buy from AliExpress, because AliExpress obviously there could be a scam, there could be no warranty and so on. So if you're spending like close to 700 Sing dollars with something that's no warranty, it doesn't really feel good, especially when it does break down. So this is a bit of an argument, a bit of a struggle, but I would say, yeah, you can get it from the techyard.com. Buy it locally so that you get local warranty. 730 SGD from the techyard.com. If not, then the next, you can get it locally from Bizgram Asia. I think 775 SGD. But this has dropped in price significantly. I think when they first started releasing, I think end of last year, people were selling it for like, I think like 900 SGD or something. So it has dropped in price, but still pretty expensive. Yeah, pretty expensive chip. I personally, I'm on a 7800X3D. I don't see the reason I need to jump to the 9800X3D, especially at this kind of prices. Yeah. So production CPU now 9900X, which is the 12 core 24 thread Ryzen 9 CPU. The cheapest I can find it is actually from Newegg at 593. But if you have actually seen my earlier video, I don't know whether this will release first or whether the 265K video will release first. I actually did a feature on the 265K. So 265K is actually really cheap. If you're looking at purely production workload, you can actually consider buying the 265K from Amazon and get a cheap motherboard and 6000 megahertz affordable DDR5 RAM, and it should perform similar to the 9900X in terms of how should I say, workstation performance, right? Productivity performance. But in terms of gaming, I think the 9900X still beats it. And if you're more focused on gaming, get the 9800X3D. If you are purely focused on production, yeah, maybe you can get the 9900X or the 9950X, or you can consider the 265K. It is a dilemma, like, because the 265K overall set will be cheaper, but you sacrifice an upgrade path because the Intel one is probably just going to be, the Intel motherboards are probably just going to last for this Ultra series. Rumor has it that they're not going to, the next Intel CPUs they're launching, they're going to change the chipset because this chipset did so badly in sales. So quite a difficult dilemma, but a dilemma is good. It's good for the consumer when there's options. So you will see like price wars, like people lowering the price on the Intel 265K and so on. So having options is good for the consumer. So 9900X, cheapest, get it from newegg.com. If you get it locally, you have to pay about 100 SGD more. Get it at 679 from the techyard.com. Carousell, some people selling at 629, but all these have no warranty. AliExpress also a little bit more expensive. Okay. Then moving on, 9900X3D, I believe it's in low supply because actually Newegg has no stock. It is out of stock on Newegg. And Amazon is like 1000 SGD. And this is also another fundamentally flawed chip because it is a 6-core, the CCD that the X3D is on only has 6 core because the 9900X only has 12 cores, right? So it is a 6-core CCD. And I remember when this launched, AMD didn't give it to reviewers. They didn't want reviewers to review it because it is probably performing worse than the 9800X3D. So why spend more on a chip that performs worse than the 9800X3D? And if you are looking for performance, like workstation performance, just might as well go for the non-X3D. You can get it for a lot cheaper. So the 9900X3D is fundamentally flawed as well, which shows because the high prices actually reflect that the supply is very low. AMD has no confidence in this chip selling, and they don't bother producing it. Moving on, the best AMD production GPU on the AM5 platform, there is non-Threadripper and all that, will be the 9950X. There is a 16-core 32-thread production CPU, and it usually tops the charts in terms of production. So the cheapest you can get it is from newegg.com at 818 SGD, around there. Again, take note that these prices might fluctuate. Let me compare. So at this price, it is actually 88% of its MSRP, which is about 920 SGD. So it is not too bad. You can get it from Newegg. Locally, though, it is a little bit more tricky. I would say locally, the best deal would get it from Bizgram Asia, at 115 SGD. Moving on, 9950 X3D. The cheapest I can find is actually on Carousell. There are people that post on Carousell saying that they import the CPU and then they're selling it at about 985 SGD, which is actually its MSRP, which is 990 in terms of MSRP. But if you're buying from Carousell, I don't know whether there's local warranty, and what if it burns up like the 9800 X3Ds? What will you do? It is still pretty expensive chip back then. I believe in the month of March I mentioned that you should get it from Newegg. Newegg was listing at 1063 SGD, but it was out of stock even back in March. So I mean, the Carousell one, yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I'm putting it as the best deal there, but at that price, it is 99% of its MSRP. So it is actually at MSRP, but should you trust it? I don't know. It's a lot of money to pay for something that has no warranty and coming from an unknown seller, right? Not a registered seller. So otherwise, if you wish to get local warranty, you can buy it from Bizgram Asia at close to 1200 SGD, which is about 20% more than its MSRP. So paying 20% more for MSRP, it also doesn't feel good. So I would say 9950 X3D right now, it is not a good time to buy it, because if you are more focused on gaming, just spend less and get the 9800 X3D. If you're more focused in production, just spend like $400 less and you can get a 9950X from Newegg. So at least Newegg is like, yeah, I mean, a reputable seller. Yeah, hard to say. So I also don't know how much supply the Carousell seller has. Maybe it's already sold out by now. So anyway, so that's it for the AMD CPUs update for the month of May 2025. The 9950 X3D unfortunately is just getting high in price. Maybe AMD is not producing enough of them, because I would say they are probably in high demand for people who want the best of the best. They want the best workstation chip as well as the best gaming chip, and the 9950 X3D is really good because it has removed all the downsides of the 7950 X3D. The scheduler is much improved. You don't need to have a fresh install of Windows. You can install all the firmware and it works properly. It detects games. Yeah, so personally I was also looking at a 9950 X3D as a upgrade, as a chip to upgrade to, but at this kind of price, yeah, it's not really worth it anymore. Like at 1200 Sing SGD, I can get a 4K 240 Hz OLED gaming monitor, and that would probably be my next upgrade of spending about $1,200 instead of getting the 9950 X3D. Okay, so if you like this video, please subscribe, post comments. If you have questions, post in the comments below. Just do the like and subscribe thing to support, and we will see you guys in the next video.